Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Story Time. Ashley and I are so excited. I feel like we say this about everyone, but we're so excited about this one because it is our first duo episode with former Olympic gymnasts Samantha Peszek and Alicia Sacramone Quinn. Ashley, I know we just recorded it, and I think it was one of our best ones. It was so great.
So good. Lots of different tips. You will get an inside view into US gymnastics and how that flows and functions, which I bet you probably won't know a lot about it.
I had no idea. I, being a cheerleader, kind of followed gymnastics. They were always kind of the enemy in the gym when it was a duo sport gym. But I know I learned so much. So can't wait for y'all to hear and learn and enjoy it.
All right. Good morning, ladies. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Yeah. How's pandemic life doing?
Well, pandemic life with 3 kids is not ideal, but we have definitely been surviving. Surviving's thriving in this household.
Hey,
yeah, I was just talking to someone this morning. I'm like, if you can get through quarantine in 2020, I think you can truly get through anything. So,
right?
Totally.
Words to live by right there. All right, so let's kick this off. So you both were on the 2008 US Olympic Gymnastics team, but I want to back up before that. And as a kid, what made you want to do gymnastics? And what is a memorable moment that you had as a child where you were like, I love gymnastics, this is for me?
Well, I started when I was 2 years old. My parents are both college athletes. My mom was a gymnast. My dad was a hockey player and a wrestler. And my mom was working at USA Gymnastics at the time. And so it was just the earliest sport that you can put kids into. And I just fell in love with it from day one. And then I just remember being 5 years old, watching the 96 Olympic Games on TV and just telling my parents that I wanted to do that one day. So I remember that really vividly being like my driving force of why I love gymnastics so much.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, Sam, you were just like a little itty bitty thing when you started. I didn't start gymnastics until I was 8. I had a little bit of a late start, but I did dance like tap, ballet, and jazz before that, and nothing really ever held my attention. So then once I found gymnastics, it was just like constantly a challenge that like kept me coming back for more. And I agree that 96 Olympic team was something that was like, that's so cool. Watching those girls like win that gold medal on home soil, I was like, I want to do that, even though I had like just started gymnastics and I was like a hot mess.
That's awesome. Oftentimes young athletes kind of reach a point where they don't know if they can or if they want to take on sports as a career. What made you guys choose to compete competitively?
Well, for me, I actually never did gymnastics for my career. So a lot of times there's the option of going professional or staying amateur. And like Alicia will tell you next, that she did a little bit of both. But for me, it was, I really wanted to do college gymnastics. So that meant I couldn't compete professionally, meaning like taking money or doing other deals and things like that. And so for me, I think it took a little bit of pressure off because it still had that like fun aspect. Like I was just doing it because I loved it. I loved competing for Team USA and like getting to hang out with all my teammates and traveling the world. But I think that there's like a separate kind of pressure that comes with competing when you're a professional athlete.
So I did the best of both worlds. So I went to Brown for my freshman year and I competed for them while I was still training for elite and the Olympics at the same time. And it is, for gymnastics, it's very different than other professional sports because we reach our peak at such a young age. You come to this crossroads and you have to decide when you're like 15, you're like, oh, am I going to make this a job and take money? Or like, is my education in college more important to me and doing NCAA athletics? So you have to make a very tough choice at a young age when I don't necessarily think everybody really comprehends the impact that can have. So I tried both because I figured that would be the best option. And, you know, gymnastics is an awesome sport, but it's not definitely the top generating sport when it comes to making money. So
For sure.
it's not like something you can live off of the rest of your life. It's cool to, be making money at a young age that you can save and, invest into your future. But it was, I had a positive experience. I had some cool sponsors and I met some great people that helped, support my career until I retired.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear, because a lot of kids reach this crossroads and then they just don't know what to do. And then you unfortunately see a lot of talent just kind of fall by the wayside. So, but that's cool to hear your guys' experiences off of that
And at
how
least
different they were.
both weren't like me, because I was a competitive cheerleader. So after high school, there was like nowhere for me to go at all. So at least it's not that. That one was the tough decision. And there's absolutely no money in cheerleading until now, with all the Netflix shows and all that.
So going into the Olympics, what was it like when you were told you made it to the team?
You want to go first?
Sure. So like we've said probably many times in this podcast, we're going to be telling you gymnastics is unlike any other sport, including its selection procedure to let you know if you're on a team or you're not. So there's
I'm going to interject and just say they make up their rules as they go. Like playing a board game with a little kid who wants to win, and then like they create rules as you go.
Yes, that's actually a very good interjection. Thank you. So we had our nationals, which was the stepping stone. Then we had Olympic trials. So most sports pick their team or their competitors at Olympic trials. We picked 2 of our competitors at Olympic trials, and then the remaining 5 and alternates and everything was chosen at a training camp that we went to. And then from the training camp, if you were selected to the Olympic team, you stayed and continued on to the Olympics. So you basically were at your top peak competitive, physique for like ever. It was like 6 weeks of having to be in the best shape and healthy, and you just got really worn down. So once we got chosen at this selection camp, we have already competed 6 times in 6 weeks, Sam? Something crazy.
It was really
so we're like, they're like, you made the Olympic team. We're like, yeah, yay. 6 more competitions. Can't wait. But once we rested up, we were very excited, but it was a very grueling and long procedure that you really couldn't celebrate with your friends or family because you were down in Texas and then you were off to China. So
oh my God.
It was a little bittersweet. It was, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And just to add on to her story, I mean, Alicia and I were both told after Olympic trials that we were going to be on the team. And so for you to hear that on the back end and then not be announced is tough, because you're not really sure. Anything can happen if you get injured, or, if you totally blow it at the next camp, then you're not on the team. So it was kind of like a little bit of a tease for us in particular, because us and our coaches were told that if we do our job at the next one, we're a shoo-in. So when they did actually announce the Olympic team, knowing that we did our job, we both knew that we were going to be on the team. But there was definitely a sense of relief when they finally said our names, because it was finally what they're saying is coming true.
Oh, for sure. That's so interesting. I love hearing this stuff because every sport is so different. So, everyone knows the weight and pressure that an athlete carries going into the Olympics. How did you guys deal with it? And were there moments that you just couldn't handle it?
I mean, I think like Alicia was just saying, we had competed so many times leading up to it that when we finally got to China and we had trained there for 2 weeks, we were all just ready to compete. And as crazy as it sounds, our body just knew how to do the skills. So although physically we were fatigued, I actually think mentally we were just anxious to get the competition going, because like Alicia said, we had been in like our top competition shape for so long that we just wanted to compete. And so I think the hardest part for our whole team was that waiting game, because we actually flew to China ready and then had to be there to practice for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, however long it was. So yeah, I mean, people ask us, it's like, oh my gosh, the Olympic Games, the pressure, and like every single day of practice when the national team coordinator is watching you and there's so much pressure trying to, you know, make lineups and prove that you can compete. I mean, we were still competing with each other. So every single practice was a competition and was pressure. So when we went to salute, you know, at the bigger meets, World Championships, Olympic Games, you know, it just felt like another routine.
I think when you're younger, obviously our gymnastics teams, Sam was 16, I was 20. So I had a little better grasp of like the pressure from the outside world looking in on us. But at the same time, the physical venue was very small and intimate. So like when you were out there on the competition floor, it wasn't that overwhelming unless you took a step back. You're like, oh, there's millions of people watching on TV, which like nobody would like say out loud, but we talked about it after the fact. We're like, well, that's crazy. But the venue was so small, it didn't feel that overpowering to be in there. And like Sam said, we were just so ready to compete and like get the show on the road. But it was a lot of pressure. We all had really high expectations for ourselves. So we just wanted to go in and do the best competition that we could in like the state of physical being that we were in.
In our like room that we were staying in, and you know, we're kind of on lockdown. We were the younger athletes, we weren't really allowed to leave our room, and so we didn't have like cell phones. They gave us like a Nokia phone to like call our family, but
with like 20 minutes on it.
yeah, that 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't have internet, and so we were kind of just like sheltered from the outside world, which I think is probably better than how it is now with so much noise on social media. Like I can't imagine feeling that pressure every time you're on, you know, social media. It kind of brings to life the Olympic Games instead of it just being like another competition.
Yeah, I was going to add that just like you just said, with social media, these Olympians are so young and everybody knows how just vicious and rude people can be on social media. So I'm sure going into 2021 Olympics and on, I mean, I can only imagine the pressure. Do you think it would get to the point where the team would like make the gymnasts or any athlete turn off social media? Or is it just something that as an Olympian, you have to learn how to just kind of block out yourself?
I think there's no way they can like enforce athletes to like deactivate their accounts or not be on it during a competition. It is something that each athlete will have to kind of learn to deal with on their own. And we didn't have to deal with it because social media was like on the cusp of becoming popular at our Olympic Games. And so I think for people who have like a strong sense of who they are, they can use it to their advantage and, you know, make an impact in positive ways in people's lives. And I think for the younger generations that, you know, are so wrapped up in it, like the negative impact of it may outweigh the positive that they can do, because they will just be drawn down by all like just, you know, people who are just haters hiding in their parents' basements talking shit on, you know, like a 17-year-old's Instagram page. So it's definitely a toxic environment that I don't think they can regulate, which is sad for, you know, today's youth.
We didn't have like the full effect like Instagram, but I mean, even Facebook was a thing. Like,
oh gosh, yeah.
Someone made a Facebook page at like when we were at the Olympics about how ugly my eyebrows were and like really crazy stuff. And so,
oh my God.
And you know, like you're 16, you're dealing with so many more insecurities. I didn't have an insecurity about my eyebrows then.
She did right after though.
She did after. And then like bushy eyebrows became cool. So I was like, great, I was like at the forefront. But yeah, I mean, we didn't have the like craziness of social media that there is today, but we definitely felt part of it, you know, the bullying, the, you know, people picking on you, people assuming this, that, or the other about, you know, our team or what happened or why at certain games, certain things happen. So we had to learn to deal with the trolls also.
I can't believe somebody made a Facebook page about your eyebrows.
I
That's
know. I wonder if it's
horrible.
out there. I haven't thought about
Like,
that in a long time.
You have great eyebrows.
Why don't these people have anything
Yeah.
better to do with their time? It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Remember the
It's so
the profile
Facebooky
page was
though.
like a stick drawing of like really crazy eyebrows. So not only did they do a page, but they did like artwork for it.
Renditions.
So mean.
Oh my gosh.
My gosh.
That's the most Facebooky thing I've heard.
So
Only on
Facebooky.
Facebook. So you kind of alluded to it, but like, what was it like seeing competition from other countries? Like, did you make friends with any of them, or was the mindset that like, this is my competition, like only me and my team?
I think we were kind of somewhere in the middle. There was obviously a language barrier, and not a lot of the other countries spoke English. So we kind of were always go in, do your job, and get out. We didn't socialize a ton, mostly because we weren't really allowed to. And when we did have those interactions, I mean, athletes were always like pretty nice to me, but I was like the scary one that people were afraid of. So nobody really tried to mess. Oh yeah. I mean, I was a heinous bitch at times. So like, I feel like people were just afraid that I was going to like do something crazy, which I wouldn't have done anything, but it's hilarious. But I don't know. What do you think, Sam? We didn't really interact with a ton of people. I mean, maybe on the guys team, but.
Yeah. I mean, there would be certain like dual meets where like Great Britain would come to the National Team Training Center. So there was like certain countries that we were friendly with, like Great Britain was definitely one of them. But realistically, like we don't have that many competitions in general in a year's span. So it's not like we're hanging out with them or seeing them all the time. I bet with social media now, the US team is a lot closer with all these girls because there's like a way to connect with them when they leave, whereas like we kind of saw them periodically, said hi, and that's kind of where it ended. But yeah, I mean, we're cordial, we wave, we'll like say hi. Sometimes like our coaches were foreign, so they had friends on the other foreign teams. And so like, because of that, we knew some of the other girls, but yeah, we definitely kept to ourselves. We didn't really watch anybody else. I would say like our team in particular made a big point of having like a presence and like a swagger when we walked into the facility. We would, immediately put our music in the player, no matter like what country we were in.
Let's go.
Yeah, just like that was kind of our vibe. We were like the rebel gymnasts, I would say.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. You gotta have like the smoke bombs going off in the background too.
It was like a hostile takeover of the stereo. That's awesome. I'd make burn CDs, like that was my MO. I would make all these mixes and we'd like vote on which one we were gonna do that day. And the coaches like hated some of them and like actually really liked some. So it was awesome.
And I remember we had like bad words on some of them, and like our coaches never said anything because there were so many foreign people, they didn't even know what it meant. And at my gym, we were definitely not allowed to play like bad words in the music. So it was like a big moment.
You're like, yes, this is a bop. All right. So your other teammates that year were Sean Johnson, Nashia Lukin, we had Cheslin Memel, and Bridget Salone. What was that like when you all met for the first time? And did you all keep in contact after? Or did it fall by the wayside? Are you still best friends? Obviously, you two are best friends, so.
So we actually all knew each other before making the Olympic team. Like the way our community works is like you guys grow up with one another, you're in the same group, it's like your age range is kind of what kind of groups you together. And we were all very familiar with one another. We were all friends, and we all stayed in contact. I mean, some more than others, but I think we're all super close as a team. Like there's not one of us that like really doesn't get along with anybody else. We all are pretty close. I mean, we're all at different phases in our lives, but we still try to like keep in contact and like have a good rapport. And we shared such a special experience at the Olympics that bond will always be there.
Yeah, I feel like I actually probably met Alicia last. I mean, Bridget and I grew up in Indiana together, so we knew each other since we were like 8 or something. And then
Wow.
when I started competing, like level 10, Sean was there. So Alicia and Chelsea were the oldest too. So they were kind of part of the quad before. So we probably met them last, but once you start going to training camps, you see each other once a month. So we are like, Alicia and I would FaceTime packing. We would like, Alicia and I was like music. So we would do playlists and like be really serious about playlists. And that was, you just like bond as girls that are like kind of crushing it in this sport and like working your ass off. And so that was our thing. And I feel really lucky that our team has such a good connection with one another. I mean, I was just living with Nastia. I see Bridget like 6 times a year. We talk maybe like twice a week, like I'm still very, very close, just as Alicia is. Even though we're kind of in different phases of our life, like we have that mutual respect and support for each other, which I think is really unique.
Nastia and Sean both did Dancing with the Stars. Is there any chance either of you would ever be down to take on the challenge?
No.
No.
No. I got too much crap going on. As much as I would love to like stow away off to LA and dance my little heart out, I think I'm good.
I'm not sure if I'm made for reality TV.
Yeah, that might be a hard transition for you, Sam.
I'm not filtered enough. You too. Or you might be perfect for reality TV, one of the two.
I'm like a great villain, probably. Like, just makes everybody hate you because I'm brutally honest. Like, oh, I'm sorry.
That's the best, though. There always has to be one of them.
So you all ended up placing silver that year. What was that moment like when you received your medal?
Well, we had, like I had, alluded to earlier, we had really high expectations for ourselves. And I personally didn't have my best competition. So as much as it is an honor to get an Olympic silver medal, it's amazing. I was like, if you look at any photo of my face on the medal stand, it's just like so mad and like disappointed in myself. My team did great. I did crappy. And I felt like if I had done better, personally, maybe our team would have done better. But now reflecting back on it years later, it's so special. It's something I would love to share with my kids when they're old enough to understand like what that means and what it is. But in that moment, I was not happy. Now I can say it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, similar for me. I got hurt like 5 minutes before the prelim competition. So that was not an ideal situation at all. I still got to compete bars and still have that like Olympic feeling and that Olympic salute and moment that, I'll always cherish and remember, and it's special for me. But yeah, I think coming off of a really amazing World Championships year where our team set a record in the United States and we easily won, and we just were so energized by that, and like Alicia said, our expectations were so high. I mean, we did not go into that competition thinking we would lose and wanting to lose or thinking that was even a possibility. So like she said, looking back, it is so special and cool to say you have an Olympic silver medal, but I think for a lot of us it took a little bit to understand how cool that was, because that's not what any of us wanted. And I think we knew that we could have done better like any other day. I think 9 times out of 10, we would have been Olympic champions, and it just wasn't our day for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, it is so special and so cool, but it was a lot of emotions.
That's interesting to hear. It's always, I hear coaches say it's always good though when you hear an athlete who's like mad at themselves for like how they didn't reach the level that they wanted to. So, but hey, we still medaled, so that's good. Switching into post-Olympics, what was it like coming back after the Olympics and kind of transitioning into everyday life? Was it as big of a jump or not really?
I would say it was culture shock, like going from having all this intense training and competing and having such a strict regimen and schedule to not having anything. So, I mean, I took time off after the Olympics. I'm sure Sam did too, but she was still, a little bit younger and competing at a high level. I mean, it was like an identity crisis, because I was done with gymnastics. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what I liked to do, because my time was so wrapped up with gymnastics, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm good at. Like, I don't know what I like. So it took some time to like be comfortable in my own skin and basically find passions outside of the sport. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I still really don't have a full grasp on that. It's like years later. I've kind of transitioned into like fitness and that whole space, and because it corresponds with what we did, and I loved coaching gymnastics and helping people achieve their goals and dreams and getting in the best shape possible to feel good about themselves. But it was definitely culture shock coming back, and like people will be like, oh, I watched you at the Olympics, and you're like, okay, like, hey stranger, like in the street. Or I was 21 at the time, so that like people would come say that to me at a bar, and I'd be like, what's up? So it was a little weird.
Yeah, I feel like it was an identity crisis for me too, because I was going into my junior year of high school, and I was very involved in high school. I went to the football games and the dances, and like I had been friends with a lot of these people since first grade. So for me, it was not weird, like, because I'd always been the gymnast. But coming back, from an Olympic Games is like a different thing. That doesn't happen all the time. And so I kind of felt that when I came back. And so Monday through Thursday, I would do school, and then Friday I would leave and go to the tour. So I would join all of the rest of the girls, but I couldn't do the full tour because I had to do high school. So I just remember being like, okay, am I this like superstar cool like gymnast girl, or like am I like a normal student who has to take math tests and like tuck in my shirt and not use a cell phone or chew gum during school, and like being like upset that I was like a regular student, but also being like happy I had school and like my friends there in a normal like situation. So yeah, it was so upside down, because like Alicia said, we had been training pretty consistently, like 5-6 hours a day for how many years, and then all of a sudden you just like don't have to do that, and you're kind of like don't know how to fill your time, you don't know how to feel about it, you don't know what you should be doing, because you had a coach your whole life tell you what you should be doing like at certain points of your day.
Where's the coach?
Yeah, exactly. Alicia and I are each other's coaches now. So yeah, that's kind of when I started looking at like, okay, what college do I want to go to, and kind of having my vision set on something else, because I think post-Olympic depression is truly a thing, because you're just on such a high and so much adrenaline and pressure, and like you don't even realize it until you kind of stop that and come off that, to realize like, okay, like how am I gonna like, what's next,
Yeah.
That's interesting. So now you both are retired, and what are you guys picking up now? Like, how is everyday life? Was that a difficult like transition to completely leave that world behind, or do you still have some sort of foot in it?
Well, we both do NCAA broadcasting for gymnastics, so we're definitely still involved. I was coaching up until I had my second daughter, so I was like in the gym every day still, like shaping little gymnasts, like, futures. But then I switched over to mom mode because I wanted to be able to be there for my girls. And I still, kind of keep in the loop with gymnastics, and we'll still do broadcasting, but I think I'm good, stepping away from it in like such an involved form. But it's shaped me as a person, and I think it's been so great. Hi, my husband's creeping in on me. I was like, why is the door opening? And so I'm like very blessed to have the life I have, but I'm good, being like, hey, peace out, I'm done.
Well, so I did gymnastics at UCLA, and so college gymnastics is kind of like a good transition, because elite is so intense and so serious. I feel like Alicia did it like the opposite way. Whereas like I did it, it's like, okay, let's take like a little, like, let's train less, let's have, more fun. So it was kind of a good transition to no gymnastics at all. And so I graduated in 2015. That's when I retired. And it was just like a normal stopping point when you graduate college. So I always knew like I was going to retire when I graduated college. There was like no chance that I'm coming back. But yeah, and so now I do, I started my own company called Beam Queen Bootcamp. So it's a traveling gymnastics clinic focused on helping girls to improve beam and their confidence. I used to hate beam, and then it became my best event. So it's kind of my way of giving back to the sport that gave me so much. So I think Alicia and I have both done a lot of camps. We do broadcasting, and we're still involved enough, but it's definitely the kind of world that sucks you in. So we have to be cautious of, making sure we have one foot out of real world also.
Add to that, so I know Alicia, your husband just walked in. So Brady, I see him all the time on TV for football games. So you already have COVID and the quarantine, and then he's traveling all the time. How crazy is it just trying to manage being a mom and having your husband traveling for work all the time, and just you with all the fitness stuff? Like, how do you have any time in your schedule for anything?
Honestly, I have zero time for anything. Like for like myself, like I train clients, and then I obviously have my girls. So like in the mornings, it's all about them, getting them up, ready to school, go. And then the baby's still home with me. So she's like basically my prop and my human kettlebell. So she is in a bunch of my stuff. And, Brady and I have a good partnership, and we work things out. Football season's, select duration of time. And then he's home the rest of the year, which is awesome. So we can travel and go see our friends and family. And he gets to be stay-at-home dad for a bit during NCAA gymnastics season when I'm traveling and doing broadcasting. So we have a great balance. He's, I feel bad for him. He's literally flying cross country every week. And sometimes it's for like 36 hours, then he's on a red eye back. And so his schedule's insane. But, I think both being athletes, we're really good at time management and, being regimented. So I think that has helped with our family life.
Samantha, you mentioned that you have your own event. You already kind of plugged that in. So like any advice like on where people can find out more information and get involved in it?
Yeah, beamqueenbootcamp.com. So, we do most of our events in the summer. Obviously, this summer was pretty tough since we had to cancel all of our events, but we're just now starting to reschedule them. And we've pivoted and do like a lot of online events because gymnastics is a sport that you can't really take time off. So at the beginning of quarantine, so many people were reaching out to all of us in the gymnastics world, like wanting help. And it was crazy because, as much as Alicia and I have experienced in the sport, we had never had to deal with being quarantined and not being able to practice. And so it's just really unprecedented territory for everyone, but also young gymnasts in the sport of gymnastics. So kind of giving them that light and that motivation to tell them that I know it's a really tough sport, but it's worth it. I think is kind of what my goal is, especially with Beam Queen Bootcamp right now.
Awesome. And then last question, and we will sign off, is any advice to young athletes out there who are just kind of going through it right now? We are in the middle of this pandemic. Any advice from you guys to them on how to keep going?
I think all athletes, or even also all people in general, need to remember there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we're not always going to be living in this pandemic culture where their whole training life is, kind of up in arms. Just to, stay grounded, keep working. You may not be doing your normal training, but there's still something you can do to help better yourself. And honestly, do it for the right reasons. Do it for the love of the sport, not for, followers or to become famous or because your parents want you to. It will never be like a genuine feeling of love, or you won't have that true success if you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and I would just say, this probably goes for not just young athletes, but anyone, is try to be excited about one thing every single day. With our lives being flipped upside down. I mean, normally people have like a trip to look forward to, or a vacation, or, the weekend birthday party, but everybody's plans has been altered, especially like work life. And and fun life. And so if you have just one thing, even if it's like the cup of coffee that you're drinking in the morning, be excited and still figure out how to have that zest for life, because I think that's like the only thing that's going to get all of us, you know, as a society through this mess.
Awesome. That is awesome advice. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure and lots of laughs, and I've enjoyed it all. Be sure to follow them on Instagram. Sam just launched a new podcast, so be sure to give that a listen to as well. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Cool. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
See ya.
guys. Thank you so much.